Guys, JHoyt here. Before this video gets started, I just want to say thank you guys for all the support across this series. I've been nothing but happy with the amount of views, comments, support we've gotten on it, but it's time for our first chance at the Stanley Cup. Let's see if we can do it here. If you like these videos, hit that like button down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. Without further ado, guys, let's get into the video. What's going on, guys? JHoyt back with you today. Welcome back to episode number 8 of our franchise mode with the Detroit Red Wings. Now, if you guys didn't watch last episode, go back and watch it because it is super important to set you guys up for today's video. So let's switch over to the franchise mode and we'll explain what happened. Like I said, in the last video, we had an extremely close situation. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, we were right on the verge of the playoffs, right? Right after, what was it, the trade deadline or before, wherever we started last video, we were super close to a playoff spot, and we were always within a couple points, right, of that third place spot. We were sitting in a wild card spot, I believe, when we started last episode, and we were super close. So we end up getting right down to the wire with the last couple of games here. I think we ended up clinching after that Columbus game, I believe. We finished in 4th place in our division in a wild card spot, in the last wild card spot, that is. So we end up finishing off in 8th place. But if you guys know anything about the NHL playoffs, means 8 plays against 1. And, or I believe that's how it is. Maybe I'm wrong, but yeah, we get a really tough matchup here in the first round. Of course, as you can see, it's the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, we checked them out in last video, but in case you missed it, well, first of all, make sure you go back and watch it because this is a pretty darn good series. But let's break them down one more time here. Well, of course, they got some big hitters. Nylander, Matthews, and Marner is their top line. So, obviously, 3 of their superstars. On the second line, you got Kerfoot, Tavares, and Hyman. Obviously, the 2 big superstars there, Kerfoot and Tavares. So they have a big 5-headed dragon we got to get by. And, of course, their third, and even Hyman, a bunch of 83. So really solid players overall there. 4th line, just kind of the typical 4th line, high 70s. 80, low 80s, whatever it may be. Over on the defensive side, though, Muzz and Lindgren, Sandin and Brody, Dermott and Hull. You know, we kind of match up similar-ish, I'll say. But, of course, their top line, pretty darn good, Muzzin and Lindgren there. And then still don't know who their starter goaltending is going to be because they don't have Frederik Andersen anymore, which was kind of a shock to us. But they do end up having Cal Peterson and Marc-Andre Fleury. Fleury did play most of their games for them and had the most wins and everything. So I would think it's going to be Fleury, but I'm not exactly quite sure. But these guys, obviously, solid team overall. They have a lot of players we got to look out for. And obviously, 2 big, I wouldn't even say 2. I'd say 4 kind of superstars, along with a pretty good support staff around them. But in case you guys don't remember the roster, let's go show you guys our roster as well. So on that first line, we got Lucas Raymond, of course. We got Dylan Larkin, Anthony Mantha. So we do have our players as well. A couple of big heavy hitters. Obviously, Larkin leading the way in that department. Second line, Bertuzzi, Bergeron, and Toffoli. Third line, Rasmussen, Pavelski, and Zadina. Fourth line, Hartman, Bozak, and Calvert. So pretty solid overall. I know we have a decent top 9. I'd like to get in the, this is a little spoiler alert, I'd like to get one more big hitter on our team as far as forwards go, because we kind of upgraded our defense, and obviously some guys are still growing into their roles, and potentially a coaching change might help with some of these players. But yeah, we got a lot of good players to look forward to, and a lot of games ahead of us here, hopefully. So we're guaranteed at least 4 games, but obviously we want to win and move on and face off against another team, and then move on, face another team, and then eventually get to that Stanley Cup Finals. So let's break it down as slowly as we can. So if you guys have missed my previous franchise mode videos, as far as once we got into the game, we put it 8 times speed, slowly watch through it here. They end up taking the first goal here. So what's going to happen after the first period? Ooh, we actually get a goal right as I started simulating there. But Mantha and Larkin get 2 goals on the board for us. Let's keep it going, though. Second period time, they get an early one. Lafreniere from that 4th line puts them on the power play as well. Larkin with another goal. Let's keep it going. Another power play. Let's see if anything goes on the power play. Long power play. I don't know if that was a 4 or 5 minuter, but Lafreniere again with another goal, his second of the game at least. Third period time, though, we'll let this one ride out. So Lafreniere looking for the hat trick here. Lots of power plays for Toronto as well. Larkin with a pair of goals. He's also on the hat trick watch. Over 70, we're at 72 shots in the game. Ooh, power play with 3 minutes left, nothing happening. We're going to overtime in the first game. What's gonna happen? 3-3 overtime. Next goal wins, and we get it. Captain Clutch, sort of not assistant captain Clutch. He is. Patrice Bergeron gets the game winner in overtime. It also looks like Cal Peterson is in net for them. So absolutely huge performance from the boys. Larkin with a big game. Mantha with a big game. Both 3-point nights for them. Lafreniere with his 2 goals. Just not enough for our team here. So we already are at a good spot. We're up 1-0. So I don't know if I mentioned it when I first started. I know I mentioned it in last episode, but we did turn on injuries. So we are going to encounter some injuries, and unfortunately, we have our first one. Lucas Raymond is injured with a strained hamstring. He's out for, I think that's like a couple of weeks, maybe a week or 2. I don't remember exactly what date we're on. But let's go call up somebody, and hopefully they can help out our team win the next game. So following the first game, we run into one injury. Lucas Raymond out there, but we do get Svechnikov back as well. And one thing I do, again, forgot to tell you guys, we signed some guys, or attempted to sign some guys to some contract extensions. Dylan Larkin being one of them. We offered him a $9.5 million deal for 7 years, so he'll be with us basically his entire career at this point. Some other big guys, Svechnikov, who just got called up, Rasmussen, Veleno, McIsaac. I think there might be 1 or 2 more that pop up eventually. Crap, I didn't mean to do that, but we get another overtime winner versus Toronto. I meant to go, of course, how we did in the first one, but let's make sure we go back and simulate through. But we're up 2-0, and we're headed home now. So we got 2 home games to try to win this series. So Toronto down 0-2 coming to Detroit, and they get the first goal. Kerfoot on the power play gets one past Bennington, but Larkin answers back. Captain over there, brings it home for us, 1-1, and fresh off a brand new contract as well that takes effect next year. He was a pending UFA, obviously, but let's continue on. 1-1. Let's watch the goals here. 14-8 in shots, but we do go on the power play. Nothing happening there. Let's simulate through this period. Still 1-1. But let's continue on, though. Third period time. Toronto starts on the power play, quickly followed by our power play, by another power play, and it doesn't look like anything happened on that. That was a really long power play. What was that? That was like a 5 or 6 minute, but down to the last couple of minutes of the third period. We're heading to overtime for the 3rd game in a row. Let's see who's going to be the winner in this one. And unfortunately, it's not going to be our team. TJ Brody gets the game winner for Toronto, knocking the series lead down to 2-1 here. Bennington played good. Peterson played that much better, though. So only a 1-goal difference. Another overtime game. And although it doesn't go in our favor, we're still in an absolute battle. So game 4 is upon us. We're still up 2-1 in the series, and obviously we're hoping for some early success. Dylan Larkin, I'll have to move my camera out of the way so you guys can actually see it. Let's move me down here so that way you guys can see it. But 2-1, Bergeron, our pair of centers here, our top 2 guys, arguably our best 2 players, getting it done early in the first period. Let's see another couple of minutes there. So 15-13 in shots. Pretty good performance so far from the boys. Let's continue it here in the second period. I don't remember his first name, but Robertson from Toronto gets the equalizer. Tavares gets the game lead in favor of Toronto as well. So we're still in the second period. We still have time to come back here. Down by 1 though. There it is. Lindholm gets one past Peterson. 1 minute left though. On to the third period. We're tied. Let's bring it home, boys. If it wasn't a good series already, let's keep it going with some pretty close games right until the third period. Matthews gets the lead though, 4-3. We got to bring it right back. Who else but Captain Larkin? I don't remember how to pronounce that guy's name, but he gets the lead, 5-4. Can we get a late one? 1 minute left, 1 second left. We don't. So the first ever game in this series that doesn't go to overtime, but still it was a very, very close game. So we get some good news ahead of game 5 as we head back to Toronto. Lucas Raymond is back, and he's back in the lineup. So we put him back in. We end up taking Calvert out. We move Rasmussen down to the 4th line. Just the 3rd and 4th lines wasn't really performing at all. So we're going to try to change that up there. So let's get into it though. Game number 5. Now it's down to a best of 3. So 2 teams are battling for 2 wins. We've had really good luck on the road to start off this series, and obviously we want to continue that. We got an early power play, few shots on it, but doesn't seem to help us out here. So Toronto ends up getting the first goal. So the same guy, I don't remember how to pronounce his name, but he takes the lead for Toronto. Can we answer back? Early power play, and who else but Dylan Larkin? He's been super clutch for us, scoring a lot of big goals. Speaking of big goals, the assistant captain, both on the power play, and we stayed there. Toffoli gets another one, adding the lead to 3-0. Quickly followed by the returning Lucas Raymond. I think this is the first time this series that it's actually been more than a 1-goal game. Matthews gets one though right before the end of the period, and we're going into the third period up by 2. But Nylander says no. We got to cut that lead down. Now 4-3. Larkin, though, gets another huge goal. 5-3. 9 minutes left. Count it down, boys. Let's hold this lead on. 4 minutes left. 3 minutes left. 2 minutes. 1 minute. Up by 2. Done. Our first game in a while that has been a 2-goal game. This series has been so close for so long. Dylan Larkin, Patrice Bergeron, Toffoli, and Raymond all get goals. Huge performance from the boys, putting us in the lead 3-2 with a chance to go home and clinch the series. So here we are, game number 6. Now let's set the stage for it. If we win this game right here, we win the series. We move on to round 2. If we lose this game, we have one more chance, but so does Toronto. It'd be game 7, winner takes all. Winner would go on to the second round. Loser goes home. But this case, game 6. We're back at home, but the only bad part is home hasn't been the greatest to us, as we've lost both games at our home rink so far. So I'd almost rather be away in this situation just because we've won, all games away. So hopefully we can win it here against the home crowd, or with the home crowd, I should say. But every game's been super close. Always been decided by one game one goal, with the exception of last game where it was a 2-goal victory for us. But we have the chance to win here in Game 6. Let's go give the boys a pregame speech and get right into our first Game 6 here. All to play for, but we still have a insurance marker if we need to go to Game 7, but I'd obviously prefer to end it this game. Mantha feels the same way, putting us up 1-0 here in the first period, out shooting them as well. Let's bring it home for the Detroit fans. Let's prove to you guys why we did all of the moves that we did. Let's hit the sim button. We missed 2 goals. First one by Bertuzzi. Second of all by Bergeron. Huge events just happened for us. An absolutely massive second period. Let's go into the third period up by 3 with a chance to clinch the series. Let's do it, boys. Let's bring it home for Detroit. Up 3-0 here in the third period. Marner gets a goal early on the power play, cutting the lead down to 2 goals, but we still have that 2-goal margin. 5 minutes left, though, on the clock. It's looking good for us. Can we beat the #1 team in the East? We can. 3-1 victory. They had an absolute onslaught of shots, but Binnington holds strong in the net. The boys come away with the goals. Bergeron, Bertuzzi, and Mantha all get goals in this one. Great performance from the boys. Let's go home, let's celebrate, and let's move on to round number 2. And we'll have to see who we face off against. But an absolutely huge, and I mean absolutely huge, matchup right there versus Toronto. Massive wins from the boys, and we get our first home win of the playoffs. Let's continue this momentum, though, in round number 2. So we got an original 6 matchup here in round number 2, and if I remember correctly, Boston went Game 7. So let's take a look at the brackets so far. I should say the playoff tree here. So no, they actually went Game 6. Boston beat Montreal. Absolute rivalry there. But here in the second round, top of the bracket, we got Washington and New York. Second round, we got Boston and Detroit. So we got a pretty good matchup so far. We went Game 6. They went Game 6. So it should be a good matchup. Quick look over at the Western Conference. So Colorado beats Nashville. Chicago beats Winnipeg. San Jose loses to Arizona. And then Vancouver wins against St. Louis. So we got Chicago versus Colorado, Vancouver versus Arizona. Really surprised that Vegas isn't there. And who else? Calgary. But maybe they just had some off years. Not exactly sure. I mean, obviously Fleury no longer with Vegas there now, or was on Toronto there. But looks good. Our AHL team made the playoffs as well. Where are they? So they end up losing in the first round. They're right above us here. They're actually in the Western Conference instead of the East. But they end up losing against Chicago. So you know what? That's tough. They get a game though. It's not enough to win and move on to the second round. But we did. So we're being led, of course, by the boy in charge, Dylan Larkin, leading the way, 11 points overall. But let's go see, who does Boston have? Who do we have to look out for? A very strange Boston-looking lineup here. Obviously, we have Patrice Bergeron on our team through free agency. But a very interesting Boston-looking team here. So we got Jake DeBrusk on the first line with Tomas Hertl as their first line center. Pasternak, of course, Andre Kasha, Charlie Coyle, Nick Ritchie. Then we have Marchand on the third line, which is weird. But Kuhlman down there, as well as Craig Smith, Crowley, Frederick, and Bjork as that fourth line. Let's go take a look on defense, though. And maybe some injuries, but McAvoy, of course, leading the way with Devon Taves, Matt Grzelcyk, Tanev, Brandon Carlo, and Jeremy Lauzon. So kind of a weak defensive core. I mean, they have some pretty good forwards up there, a lot of wingers. But, I think Toronto might have been a little stronger as far as their team went. They're a little hurting on the back end. Even then, they don't have, really a good defensive core. So I'm not exactly sure. But in net, though, 82 overall, Eric Comrie. But he's playing well, though, so I can't really knock that one. But a very interesting Boston team, but still, we can't underestimate them since they won the first round. So Boston had a regular season record of 50, 30, and 2. Pretty clean looking record there, but their last 10 not so great. But of course, their last 6 has been pretty good. They're 4-2 after in the playoffs so far. So are we. They have a really weak, what seems to be weak defensive core. I mean, they have a superstar in McAvoy, but everything else around him kind of average. So hopefully we can exploit that with the forward boys. And without further ado, let's get right into the first game. Hopefully we can continue that momentum from the first round. Lots to look forward to. Our boys are back in action. Of course, who else but Dylan Larkin? He's just been leading the way. And who else but Bergeron? The boys are buzzing here in game 1. And, I mean, what else can we say about the boys? I mean, they're performing. The big-time players are showing up. The guys that are wearing the letters, the guys that are making the most money, they're showing up. I mean, I don't know what else to say about them. 2-0 going into the second period. Hurdle gets one back, though, on the power play. No big deal, but we still want to get another goal. Get that insurance marker and keep moving on here. Bertuzzi gets it for us. 3-1 though, approaching the third period. Couple minutes left though in the second. Nothing happening. So let's continue on here. Third period, early power play for Boston, but we get one. Rasmussen, huge goal by him on the power play. I was starting to lose some confidence in him just because he just hasn't been performing. So hopefully he can turn that around. Another goal by Larkin, 5-1 here in the first game. It looks like it's no question as the seconds tick down though. 5-1 in the first period. Bennington played strong. Another big game from Larkin and Bergeron. Absolutely great performance. Let's continue that in game number 2. So of course, as we had with Raymond, we got another injury. This time though on the back, and Filip Hronek going out with an injured leg. It actually doesn't look to be too long of an injury since we're in the second round, and the return date is April 28th. So I don't think that's too long from when we are, but let's go call someone up, put him in the lineup, and continue on with game 2. So we brought up Trent, I don't remember his name, but man, our first ever draft pick. We put him on the third line there, 1-for-1 swap with Hronek, who goes out with the injury. But of course, if you look at our team leader in points, who else but Captain Larkin? 10 goals so far in the playoffs. Let's continue with on though. Game 2, can Larkin get another one? But even though with his solo performance so far, we need the rest of the boys to rally around him, and which is what we did in the first game. 5-1 victory. Absolutely huge win for us. Zadina gets a goal early on here. We'll simulate through the second period. Early power play for Boston. Richie, though, ties it up. 2-1, though. Who gets it? Shorthanded goal from Bergeron. Absolutely huge. Let's keep it going. In the third period here, though, I think that might be the first shorthanded goal of the series, might be of the playoffs. Lindholm gets another one, followed by another power play. The boys are buzzing though. Another power play. Come on. Oh, we didn't capitalize. That's unfortunate. Boston gets one right afterwards though. Nothing on it. We get one right after that. We get a long one as well. And Larkin seals the deal. Who else but Dylan Larkin? I think that's his 11th goal or something of the playoffs so far. Another big win against Boston. Let's keep it going though. Bergeron gets the number 1 star, but of course it's a whole team effort here. The boys are absolutely buzzing. We're going home now once again. So we are playing absolutely awesome, like absolutely supreme and special away, but we got to continue doing it at home. That's where we need to win the games. We're supposed to have home ice advantage, right? You're home in front of your own crowd. But we need to make sure we do that at home. If we could, replicate the performance that we're doing away at home, we should have no problem because the boys are just wow. So up 2-0 heading into game 3 as we head home to Detroit. Can we continue these performances at home? If we can, we should have no problem because the way we are lights out right now, and of course, Jake DeBrusk says no. Pasternak quickly follows with another quick goal, and it's happening again. We're winning away, but we cannot afford to lose at home. A big power play for Boston, though, nothing happening on it. Followed by our power play, which is followed by another power play, and yeah, not the performance we wanted here in Game 3, though. Let's quickly sim it. Sedina, though, says no. We want to come back in this one. Can we get another one? No. Bjork gets one. 4-1 not victory. That's the second period. But let's hope for some momentum here in the third period. I'd say try to go get a fight, but usually fights don't happen in the playoffs. Frederick gets another one, though. A forgettable game here in Game 3. I mean, we did it to him the first 2 games. And yeah, they continue it on. Binnington stays in net for all of these somehow. They should have switched, honestly. The AI. But yeah, that's not the performance we want right there. I mean, if it does go Game 7, we should be away, which should be helpful. But yeah, a forgettable game there in Game 3. Let's fix our mistakes and get back in for Game 4. Let's start it off strong here. Game 4 as Hurdle gets one early on, but quickly answered this time by Toffoli, which is huge, though. Hurdle gets another one, though, quickly answered by Anthony Mantha. You love to absolutely see that. You just love to see it. 2 goals by Boston, 2 quickly answered by Detroit, though. Looks like we're going to be tied after 1. Hopefully for no early goals unless it's us in period number 2. Andre Kasha gets one early on. Not what we wanted, but of course we answer back. Wasn't right away, but a couple minutes later we end up tying it up 3-3 more than halfway through the second period. Charlie Coyle, though, gets one. 5 minutes left in the second period. Down by 1. Heading into the third period, Brandon Carlo gets another one, though. 5-3. At least it's closer than Game 3 was, but obviously I'd like to see a better effort at home, especially given our track record away. That if we can replicate that performance at home, we'd be totally fine. But in typical Detroit fashion here, we are not performing at home. I don't know why. But the crowd is not helping us out. I mean, it's not really on the crowd, it's on our players. But 2, I guess, forgettable games at home, but we do go away for game number 5. Series is now tied up. Looks like New York is up 3-1 over Washington. And then a pair of sweeps over in the Western Conference there. We'll wait for it to scroll back around to see who actually won those ones. So Chicago wins 4-0 and Arizona wins 4-0. So Chicago versus Arizona in the Western Finals. But we hope to earn our spot in the Eastern Conference Finals here. Can't do it this game, but this is absolutely huge. Game 5. It's now down to a best of 3. Who's going to win this one? What am I doing here? Let's increase the sim speed and hope for a good first period here. And again, who else but Dylan Larkin? Let's simulate the rest of the first period. Nick Ritchie gets a goal to even us off going into the second period, which we get another one. Who is it? Ekholm, the trade deadline acquisition, gets a goal for us heading into the third period. Power play to start off for Boston. Long power play for Boston. They get one, though. Stunica gets one, fouled quickly by Nick Ritchie. Quickly followed by Lucas Raymond. Absolutely huge set of goals there. Obviously, Raymond ties it up for us. Can we get a power play marker? That was also a really long power play for Boston. Stunica gets another one. Can we get a late one here? A couple minutes left on the clock. Doesn't seem to be. So Boston up 3-2 in this series. They have a chance to clinch it in Game 6. It's crucial for the boys. Hopefully no injuries as we head into it. Of course, I jinxed it. Zadina out with a sore foot, huh? So let's go put in whoever's extra up here, and we'll get right into Game 6. So we need a big performance here in Game 6. elimination on the line, and that game 5 was a massive loss for us. We were away, so we needed to win that one, but we have won at home before, so we have a chance, obviously, here in Game 6. Anything can happen, of course, in the playoffs. Let's hope the boys can come through, though, get another win at home, and hopefully force that Game 7. Who's that? Lucas Raymond gets one early on in the first period. Let's simulate the rest of the first period, though. Mantha gets one few minutes after Raymond did, and let's keep it going. Power play to start off the period, which is crucial. Let's simulate the rest here. Craig Smith gets a goal, but we get another one. Rasmussen, we've said his name a little bit recently. He got moved back up to the third line. Hopefully he can produce for us, but 3-1 heading into the third period. Let's win it at home here. Let's force that Game 7 and bring it back, and hopefully have the same luck we do away. But Sean Crowley wants to end it, though. But still up by 1, though. 8 minutes left in the third period. Now down to 5-4. Let's keep counting it down here. Jake DeBrusk gets one, ties it up. Late goal doesn't happen here. So let's set the stage one more time. It's a tie game going to overtime. If we win this game, we force the Game 7. If Boston wins, we go home. They move on to the third round. If I'm calling on anyone, of course, it's the guy wearing the letter C, Dylan Larkin. Lead the boys to the victory. Let's see what's going to happen here. The rest of the game doesn't matter. Now's the time to perform. And who is it? Trent Frederick ends our playoff run with the overtime winner. Man, that's unfortunate, but hey, we made it to the second round, right? We weren't even hoping to make the playoffs this year. I was predicting probably one more year before we were serious about winning. This year was kind of like a bubble year. If we gotten close and made it, or right on the edge and missed it, I wouldn't have cared, right? But still, we had a really good performance. Let's look at the positives here and see what happened. So, I mean, we made it to round 2. We made it to Game 6, and a great performance from the boys. Let's go fix the lines. They don't really matter anymore, and we'll get with a season recap here after the playoff stats. So let's show you guys the playoff stats here, and now let's quickly start with who's actually going to be in the conference finals here for both teams. So we got Chicago and Arizona over in the West. We already knew that one after a pair of sweeps. And here in the East, so we got Boston, of course. After we lost, Boston moves on to face off against the Rangers. I don't know, should be a good matchup, but let's check our stats first, kind of wrap up this playoff run and show you guys, or I guess tell you guys what the plan is for the off season, and some players that are going to be expiring that we're going to have to check out and see how we're going to fill those holes. So let's look at the forwards, though. So although Larkin did lead the way for, I'd say, probably a good majority of the playoffs, only losing off to Mantha by 1 point. So both those guys, huge performances for us. Zadina showed up, after, I don't want to even say a rough regular season, but a season in which he played on the third line most of the year. A huge playoff performance from him. It was huge. We ended up moving him up, and I think dropping Bertuzzi down to that third line. But a huge performance from Zadina. Obviously, he'll get a look at the top 6 next year. But Bergeron, couldn't have asked for anything more from him this year. More than a point per game during the regular season. More than a point per game in the playoffs. Some absolutely crucial goals. Look at that. I didn't even see that. Over in the GWG, game-winning goals. 4 out of his 7 goals in the playoffs were game winners. So, great performance by him. Whether he retires or we don't re-sign him, I appreciate all the effort from him in these playoffs. To Foley, almost point per game on that second line. Bertuzzi with a good performance. Raymond with another good performance. Rasmussen, although I did say I thought I was losing confidence in him, I didn't realize he only had 2 points. Those 2 goals, the 2 goals that we mentioned in game, didn't really help us out. Svechnikov, not really the greatest performance from him either. In 11 games, 1 point, -4. Yikes. So, fourth line, I mean, whatever. Nothing too interesting there. Back on the back end, though, Lindholm led the way in points. Murray, Timmins, I would have liked to see a little bit more out of Timmins, personally, since he led the team in points, I believe, during the regular season. And Bennington did everything we asked him to this year. We had a slow start to the year. We brought it home and, eventually got down to the wire, and he brought us through. Not the greatest stats in the playoffs, but still, though, 6 wins on the board. We end up going 6-6 in the playoffs. 6-4-2. Those 2 overtime losses, obviously close. Could have gone either way. But still, great performance from Bennington nonetheless. But let's simulate through the rest of the year here. I guess with those best lines, since it doesn't really matter right now. But let's talk about it, though. So next year, what is our plan? So we have some holes and some players that don't really fit our current scheme. So what I either want to do is either find players that fit our scheme better, or find a coach that better fits our team. And I think coach would probably be easier rather than trading away some of our players that are good and young and still working their way up in the system. But I think even though we made the playoffs, we made it to round 2, finding a new coach or potentially a new coach could help us out. Trying to get players that fit in our scheme could be a little bit more difficult. Plus, we'd have to probably make some more difficult decisions regarding some of our players, especially some of our young players, because technically Maurice Sider and Trent Mann, I think it's Trent, whatever it is, both those guys don't really fit our scheme unless they're on the second line defenseman pair, which both of them would have to play there. And if we found a coach that fit our scheme a little bit better, it might help those guys out. Plus Rasmussen kind of be our third line center unless we find a suitable replacement for him. But, of course, that'll be all stuff we have to address during the offseason. But we do have our winners, though. Stanley Cup champions, the Chicago Blackhawks, and the Calder Cup, the Belleville Senators. So a great performance from the boys this year. We have a lot of players that are expiring this year, and it's going to be tough to try to fill some of those roles. But let's go take a look at it here before we get into the, we're not going to go to the offseason. We're just going to kind of wrap it up here, kind of see what we want to do going into next year and into this year's offseason. So as far as centers go, Pavelski and Bergeron, they are at that retirement age, so they might end up retiring. If they do, we do have Shane Wright in the system, who looks to be an 82 overall, so he's going to have a look at the NHL this year. Of course, we have Rasmussen, who's up here, as well as Veleno. So all those guys are going to want to look for spots next year. So depending on what happens with Bergeron and Pavelski, we'll have to see what happens with them. But same thing with Bozak. He might end up retiring, so we might need a 4th line center, which might mean Veleno might make his jump up to the main roster, though. Left wings, Bertuzzi and Zadina, we don't really have to worry about those guys. Both those guys are locked up for at least, the next 3-4 years. So don't have to worry about anything there. Over on the right wing side, again, we have nothing to worry about right now. Mantha locked up for a while. Raymond's still on his entry-level contract. He's still got 2 years left. Toffoli's still got a couple of years left. And Svechnikov, we just signed to a 2-year contract. So if we could make him jump up to the NHL or even trade him away for something that makes sense, that obviously would help us out as well. Over on the defensive side, though, everyone's locked up with the exception of Edler, but Edler probably just going to release him anyway. Obviously doesn't really fit our team, and obviously we have a bunch of younger guys wanting to stay in the system. So unless we find a significant improvement for some of our defensemen, I don't see us making any trades. Ideally, I'd like to get a superstar defenseman. That's going to be something on a wish list for us as we look for free agency and or trades. If we had to trade Hronek or Timmins even, I don't want to trade Timmins because he has a good future with us. But if we could trade maybe Hronek or someone else to try to get that superstar, we might have to do it. But and then of course goalies, most likely Howard is going to retire. Where did he even go? Yeah, so he'll probably end up retiring. So that means we're going to need a backup goalie. Probably look to free agency for that one. So a lot of question marks going into next year. A lot of young players looking to make the jump. But of course, we'll have to wait and see, what happens with those older players. But a recap of the season, you know, it was I would say a positive one, right? Making it to the playoffs as a bubble team, you know, as an expectation for this year was huge, right? You know, we went down to the wire, we made it within a couple of games and ended up making the playoffs, which was huge, right? We made it to the first round. We beat Toronto, which was massive for our team, winning in what, game 6, I believe it was, and absolutely huge wins there. You know, beating the number 1 team in the East was huge. And then move on to the second round. We thought we had a pretty good run with Boston, but they end up we just couldn't win at home. It was one of the big things, and that really hurt our team. You know, especially in the first round. You know, we could have probably won that in a sweep if we would have played well at home. You know, nothing but close games though. Then we move into round 2. If we would have won at home again, we would have probably either swept or went to game 5 and probably would have won it. So hopefully next year, and obviously it'll be the regular season, but hopefully the home record will be better than the away record, because if we can win at home, we should be in a good spot for the future. With all that being said, guys, that's going to be it for today's video. I'm super proud of the team making it to the second round of the playoffs. Next episode number, what would it be, number 9, I believe, will be the off season with, of course, the preseason battle, all preparing for next season, where hopefully we can continue on this momentum from this playoff run and hopefully translate it into next year. But with all that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy, hit that like button down below if you haven't already, or if you're brand new here, make sure to hit the subscribe button down there as well. Turn on those notifications, and as always, guys, we'll see you in the next one.